Imagine you're sitting on an airplane. The engines are roaring, people around you are talking. Then you put on a pair of noise-canceling headphones. Almost instantly, the world becomes much quieter. But how is that possible? The headphones aren't completely sealing your ears. So where did all that noise go? Did the headphones somehow absorb the sound? Or are they doing something much stranger? The truth is surprisingly fascinating. These headphones don't just block noise. They actually use sound to fight other sound. It sounds impossible, but it's happening hundreds of times every second right next to your ears. So how can a device create silence using more sound? Let's find out. To understand how noise-canceling headphones work, we first need to understand what sound really is. Sound isn't something invisible floating through the air. It's actually a wave. When someone speaks, claps, or when an airplane engine runs, it creates vibrations. Those vibrations travel through the air as waves and eventually reach your ears. Your ears detect those waves, and your brain interprets them as sound. No matter whether it's music, conversation, or engine noise, it all starts as waves moving through the air. And here's where things get interesting. If sound is just a wave, what happens when two waves meet each other? The answer is the secret behind noise-canceling headphones. Now let's take a closer look at a sound wave. Every wave has two important parts, peaks and valleys. A peak is the highest part of the wave, while a valley is the lowest. As sound travels through the air, these peaks and valleys repeat over and over again. Think of it like the ups and downs of a roller coaster. Whether it's someone talking, music playing, or an airplane engine humming, the sound is made up of these repeating patterns. Your ears don't see the wave, but they detect these tiny changes and convert them into sound. This may seem like a small detail, but it's actually the key to everything. Because once we understand the shape of a wave, we can start asking a fascinating question. What happens when two waves meet? So what happens when two sound waves meet? They combine. Imagine two people speaking at the same time. Both voices create sound waves that travel through the air together. When those waves meet, they add to each other. The result can be a bigger wave, which means a louder sound. This happens all around us every day. At a concert, thousands of sound waves combine to create powerful music. Even in a crowded room, the sound gets louder because many waves are mixing together. So here's the important idea. When similar waves meet, they can make sound stronger. But now comes the surprising part. What if one of those waves was the exact opposite of the other? Instead of making the sound louder, something very different happens. Now imagine creating a second wave that is the exact opposite of the first one. Where the original wave has a peak, the new wave has a valley. And where the original wave has a valley, the new wave has a peak. In other words, the two waves are perfect opposites. Think of it like a mirror image flipped upside down. The shape is exactly the same, but everything is reversed. At this point, nothing has been cancelled yet. We simply have two waves that are equal in size but opposite in shape. And this leads to an interesting question. What happens when these two opposite waves meet? The answer is the clever trick that makes noise-canceling headphones work. Here's the amazing part. When a sound wave meets its exact opposite wave, they cancel each other out. The peak of one wave meets the valley of the other. At the same time, the valley meets the peak. As a result, the waves effectively neutralize each other, and very little sound remains. This phenomenon is called destructive interference. And it's the secret behind noise-canceling headphones. Instead of blocking noise, the headphones create an opposite version of the unwanted sound. When the two waves meet near your ears, much of the noise disappears. It almost feels like magic. But it's actually physics at work. The real question now is, how do headphones create the perfect opposite wave quickly enough to make this happen? So how do noise-canceling headphones create the opposite wave? The answer lies inside the headphones themselves. Tiny microphones on the headphones constantly listen to the sounds around you. A small computer chip then analyzes that noise in real time. Within fractions of a second, it creates an opposite sound wave that matches the unwanted noise. The headphone speakers immediately play this opposite wave into your ears. When the outside noise and the opposite wave meet, much of the sound is cancelled before you even hear it. What's remarkable is that this process happens continuously, hundreds of times every second. All of this advanced technology is working behind the scenes, helping create a much quieter listening experience. Noise-canceling headphones work best when the noise is steady and predictable. That's why they're so effective on airplanes. The sound of an airplane engine stays relatively constant for long periods of time. This gives the headphones enough time to detect the noise, create the opposite wave, and cancel much of it. The same thing happens with sounds from trains, air conditioners, and other machines that produce a continuous hum. Because these sounds follow a predictable pattern, they're easier to cancel. That's why putting on noise-canceling headphones during a flight can make the cabin feel much quieter and more comfortable. But if they work so well on airplane engines, why can't they completely eliminate every sound around you? If noise-canceling headphones are so effective, why can you still hear some sounds? The reason is that not all noise is predictable. Sounds like airplane engines and air conditioners are steady, making them easier to cancel. But sudden sounds are different. Think about a crying baby, a nearby conversation, or an announcement over a speaker. These sounds change quickly and unpredictably. The headphones must first detect the sound, create an opposite wave, and then play it back. Although this happens very fast, it isn't always fast enough to perfectly cancel every sound. That's why noise-canceling headphones can greatly reduce noise, but they can't create complete silence. So, how do noise-canceling headphones make sound disappear? They don't simply block noise. Instead, they listen to the sounds around you, create an opposite sound wave, and use physics to cancel much of the unwanted noise before it reaches your ears. That's why they're especially effective against steady sounds like airplane engines, trains, and air conditioners. Of course, they can't eliminate every sound completely, but the fact that they can reduce noise using more sound is remarkable. The next time you put on a pair of noise-canceling headphones, remember what's happening behind the scenes. They're constantly listening, calculating, and fighting sound with sound, all in real time. There's always more to discover. Like, share, and subscribe to Beyond Basics for more fascinating videos made simple.